The Labour Department is trying to hire less foreigners in all sectors. It was sparked by violent attacks against foreign nationals employed as truck drivers. Labour Minister Tulas Naisi says many employers also take advantage of workers, making them work long hours for low pay. Now, Michael Yates, Director in Employment Practice at Cliff Decker Hofmeyer, joins me now via Skype. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. I suppose it's easier said than done, isn't it?
Yes, hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. Yes, no, look, this is a debate that has been ongoing for some time, and there's a lot of pressure on government from South Africans to try and hire more South Africans and less foreign nationals. It's a tricky balancing act because South Africa's got various socio-economic considerations where this could impact, as well as its own international relations with our neighbouring countries to bear in mind. But this discussion really came about on the 7th of May during a parliamentary discussion where the development of new labour policies were discussed.
Talk to us about the current laws at the moment.
Well, the current laws, even though they give preference to South Africans, they don't particularly create any form of limitation or restriction on the number of foreign nationals that can work in a particular sector. Now, what the Department of Employment and Labour have held, or the view that they have, is that there's a prevalence to employ foreign nationals and more particularly undocumented foreign nationals in certain sectors that they've identified. These sectors include the freight and logistics industry, private security, restaurants, agriculture and hospitality, where they find that, that there is a preference by employers to employ foreign nationals, partly because of skills, but also because of cheap labour, thereby ousting South Africans out of these sectors. And I think this is the evil that government is trying to remedy, to create some form of quota or a percentage limiting the amount of foreign nationals that can work in these sectors.
And also you've got the minister was mentioning unscrupulous, business owners who are hiring illegal foreigners because it's cheap labor and so forth. What does the ministry or the department actually do about that? Do we have labor inspecting a lot of these factories? And a lot of this happens in some of the factories, unscrupulous factories that we have in our cities. What do they do about it at the present moment?
We do have quite stringent immigration laws that regulate the employment of foreign nationals, but I think that there is perhaps a bit of a problem with the enforcement of these pieces of legislation that are designed to protect the South African labour market as well. So part of the department's strategy is to look towards the enforcement of existing laws in order to ensure compliance with the legislation, and then introducing these limitations that we've discussed a little bit earlier. Government will most likely start cracking down, particularly on the sectors that I've mentioned a little bit earlier, to check their compliance with immigration legislation, to make sure that they do not employ undocumented foreigners within their sectors.
So how can employers ensure that they're complying with these current laws and, I suppose, the new laws that we're expecting?
Well, I think the most important aspect is to make sure that if you do employ any foreign nationals, ensure that you know that they are actually authorized to conduct those working activities for you as an employer. If your employees, foreign employees, are not authorized to work for you, then already there's some cause of concern. So in that respect, it would be best to try and ensure that all of your workforce who are foreign nationals do have the right documentations to work for you, which particularly means that their work visas would need to specify your company's name, and that it also authorizes the activities that they're busy with in your sector. It is very scarce to see a very open-ended general or generic kind of work visa that doesn't specify the name of the employer or a particular activity. So just be vigilant.
Now, Michael, lastly, for those who may be up in arms about this proposed new legislation, this is common in many other countries. We won't be the first country to do this.
No, that's correct. We have seen other African countries as well, but also countries across the world that do try to protect particular vulnerable sectors within their economy by placing limitations on the employment of foreign nationals. It is not a new phenomenon. It is just not something that South Africa has indulged in historically.
All right, thank you so much, Michael Yates, Director of Employment Practices, Cliff Decker Hofmeyer.